The first part of the search really happened very shortly after Rick announced his retirement in September of last year, and the board determined very quickly that we did want to do a search, that it'd be an exhaustive search, national in scope, and that we also needed to determine what were the appropriate attributes for the next CEO and president of Spectrum Health.
We started the process with the board all getting involved with identifying those traits and the skill sets that we were looking for in the next CEO. And by doing that and engaging all of the board members in a thorough process, both by talking about it initially, then each one of us filling out a form and identifying where we thought the important strengths and focuses needed to be. And then after we pulled that together, it provided us a map and an idea and a way to communicate with the search firm, with others who would be involved in the interviewing process so that they could identify the talents and traits we felt were most important. So it put together a path and a plan that everybody could use in a very productive manner.
Of course, the other two tasks that the board had to accomplish before the search actually began was selecting a search consultant and then also picking a search committee. And both of those things were also done in that time period between September and December of last year.
And when you're talking about a $6 billion organization with close to 25,000 employees, that is known for its both quality of care and the cost of care, and in my mind, a thought leader around health care for this region and state, it begins to impact you personally as to the consequences for Southwestern Michigan, for the state of Michigan, for Spectrum Health, this decision will have. And so that is a burden that I think that every board member felt. I know I did. And we just knew we had to get it right.
Anytime you have a new leader coming into an organization, it's a critical point in that organization's history and their legacy. But this one in particular, Spectrum Health is the largest employer in West Michigan. They are a key community player, a partner to so many in this community. And so choosing the right person was absolutely critical, not just for the hospital, but for Priority Health, for the community and those partnerships, and I would say for the system as a whole. We needed someone who was going to be able to lead the system.
The candidate pool that we looked at was very diverse, both ethnic and gender, both physicians and non-physicians in the industry, outside of the industry. We wanted to make sure that we had the widest net we could cast to get the best talent.
When we got down to the final few that we actually brought in, we sought out community leaders, business leaders, the staff, the rest of the board. We really put it out as broadly as we could to get input.
From my perspective, the search process was comprehensive and inclusive and very, very thorough. And it was important to me that it didn't feel forced or rushed in any way, and gave the community, no matter what their station or position, an opportunity for input.
Well, I think the search process itself was quite transparent, that these candidates were vetted through different phases of the interview process itself, and that I would say whoever is chosen, that individual does have the right fit, has the right character for serving internally because of the complexity. He or she has to know the job, but also because of our culture, our ethos, our DNA right here. That individual has to also be a leader within the community as well.
What was really important to us was that whoever we chose had to have the skill to be able to engage physicians and be able to work with them and use their input in developing the strategy for our institution. And so I think we did a really good job at bringing in candidates that really held true to that.
I always had a lot of confidence that the process was very open and equitable. They clearly were talking to many audiences. The one that I was on, of course, was a group of physicians, but I know they were talking to people in the community, they were talking to business leaders, they were talking to other leaders throughout our organization. So very objective, very thorough, very fair as far as I could tell.
One of the things that was gratifying and surprising to me is that Spectrum Health has a national reputation. Many of the candidates that came through had heard and read about Spectrum Health. They were very impressed by our accomplishments, and they were really very honored to be part of the selection process.
When you have a system that is a regional system, but a system of the quality that we have, you attract certain people that are focused on the quality. You don't necessarily get people who want to work in what they would view as a smaller institution. But I thought we ended up with quite a robust, it was national. We had candidates from all over the country applying, as well as within the region, as you would expect. And again, some very talented people.
We had incredible engagement from people outside of the search committee, and we had over 60 people that interviewed our more final candidates, and really making it a very thorough process, the most thorough process that I've been a part of.
And I've got to say that this process was extremely open and extremely transparent. I was very pleased to see all the different groups that were able to meet the different candidates, and to actually then we received very good feedback from each of the different groups. So it took a while, but it was very transparent, and I thought that they were able to get a lot of information out.
So I was really just blown away by the candidates that we brought in to interview. We ended up with a very diverse group of people. Half of our 8 that we brought in for interviews were diverse. We treated everybody the same, whether they were an internal candidate or external candidate. They went through the same rigor as everybody else, and I think we came up with a really good slate of candidates.
The transition from the search committee to the system board was quite an easy one, because 6 of the 8 search committee members are already on the board, and each of the other board members during the 2-day process had an opportunity to interact with the candidates. So they all had the same body of work that we did. So it made that transition very easy. And then once the search committee had presented, along with, we also had the psychologist present the assessment work. And once we, as a board, had all of that, then transitioned from kind of search committee to the system board, and Dick DeVos, our chair, took over from that point and handled it masterfully to bring out from each of the board members their thoughts and their conclusions, so that ultimately we drove to a decision that was unanimous.
My experience with Spectrum as a patient, as someone that uses Spectrum services, is the same quality that I see there. I believe as a board we evidenced in this search process, and that makes me very proud. I mean, Spectrum is in many ways in a class by itself. I think this search was in a class by itself.